These two, and unmute your.
Good morning, everyone. Well, it looks like people are still joining, so we'll give everyone a couple more minutes to get connected, and then we'll start the webinar. Okay, it looks like we have a good amount of people connected, so we'll get started. And of course, as other people join, they can come in. So hello, everyone, and welcome to Development Research and Practice, the course. We're excited to have all of you here online with us today and joining for this virtual course. This is our introductory webinar where we will explain how the course is structured and set up and give you some background as to who is putting on this course, both DIME and the specific DIME Analytics team that were the authors of the handbook that forms the basis for the course. So we'll start with some welcomes, introduce you to the team behind the book, as well as the particular course instructors that you'll be interacting with over the next couple of months. I'll go through an overview of the course content to give you a high-level view of what we'll cover during the course, and finally talk about some of the logistics and details as how the course will be structured and the format it will take. And at the end, we'll have plenty of time for questions and answers from the audience. But we wanted to start first by understanding who's online and joining us today. So please go to the website that you see linked here, polev.com/dimeanalytic981, and you can put in your location, and we'll start to see those locations popping up on the map here. So please do go to that website, put in your location, and we can see where everyone is joining from today. We have quite a lot of people. You can go to this link whether you're on the Zoom webinar or you're joining us via the live stream. It should work for everyone. So please do go ahead and vote. I see some pins popping up. And just as a note, please do feel free to ask questions in the Q&A box as we go along. We'll wait and answer those questions largely at the end of this session, but the team is here to answer any that they can as they come up. So we'll put those. So do put any questions you have in the Q&A box, and do reserve it just for questions. We give another 30 seconds or so for people to get logged on and put in their location. It looks like we really have quite broad representation from all over the world and lots of different time zones. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may happen to be joining us from. We really are delighted to have all of you here. It looks like lots of participants from Africa, Latin America, Europe, South Asia, United States, Central America. I see a critical mass in Nigeria, as well as in Washington, D.C. Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to close this now, but thank you all for participating. We'll have a few more polls throughout because we are curious to get to know all of you, as well as to share with you who we are. So we actually have one more poll right away. This one, I'm going to ask you to vote what of the following best describes your current role. So again, give us a sense of who's in the room, who are we interacting with? Are you staff of the World Bank or another multilateral development bank, a government official, an employee of an NGO or other nonprofit, a private sector employee in academia, either as a student or professor, or something else? So again, you'll see it's the same link. If you're having questions about how to participate in these polls, you can put those up in the Q&A, and someone from our team will be able to help. But you should be able to navigate right to that link, or you can see the instructions for texting in your answers up on the screen. Looks like we have lots of answers coming in. We can see those coming. And again, I give you about 30 more seconds to vote. Looks so far like lots of representation from academia and lots from the NGO and nonprofit sector, which is wonderful. Again, glad to see lots of diversity in participants as well. We're hoping that this course will speak to lots of different audiences and different skill sets. Okay, last 10 seconds to put in any final responses, and then we'll lock the poll. Great. So we'll lock that here. You see, again, a very diverse set of participants, and we are excited to have all of you here. And we did collect some information as well from all of you as we were filling out the registration form. So we have actually about over 2,700 participants registered for this course. So we were delighted to have that level of interest in the course, and we hope that many of you will be able to join for all of the course activities and will be able to benefit from the handbook. And you can see that the majority of students are coming from sub-Saharan Africa, almost 70%, which again is quite exciting. And we have affiliation, lots of folks coming from the World Bank or other multilateral development organizations, also lots of students and researchers. So it's quite a diverse and broad community. You'll see already that we've sent out a Slack link, and there's been a lot of messages with people introducing themselves, saying where they're coming from, what their background is. So please do use that for connecting with each other and networking. We're excited to have you all have the chance to get to know each other as well as part of this part of the course. Okay, so with that as a bit of a brief introduction as to who's in the room, let me tell you more about who's putting on this course. So DIME is the Development Impact Evaluation Department at the World Bank. And our mission is to generate evidence, generating high quality and operationally relevant data and research in order to transform development policy. So we work closely with our government counterparts and other multilateral development organizations to provide customized information and data ecosystems in order to be able to produce actionable information and recommend specific policy pathways to maximize impact. So we're really interested in understanding what works, what's most effective, what projects are most effective, what interventions are most effective at achieving the development objectives that we all care about, reducing poverty and increasing shared prosperity. And another really important part of DIME's mission is to transfer capacity and know-how to partners in order to enable them to make mid-course corrections to projects and scale up successful policy instruments to achieve those policy outcomes of interest. And DIME has a portfolio that's across multiple regions. As you'll see from the map here, we have ongoing impact evaluations in 67 countries. Those are mostly in sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America, although there's also representation from South Asia and Europe and Central Asia and a few other regions as well. So quite a broad coverage by geographically and then also by sectors. We work on impact evaluations of most of the sectors that the World Bank covers. You'll see here we have lots of impact evaluations related to governance, agriculture, transport, social protection, and social, urban, rural, and resilience are probably the most common, but again, a broad variety of coverage. So we have, so that's to say we have quite a large and diverse portfolio, both geographically and thematically. And in doing all of those impact evaluations across different contexts and across different sectors, we've gained a lot of experience and information about how best to how best to handle impact evaluation research. And so Dime Analytics, which is the team that prepared this handbook that the course is based on, is a small unit within Dime that's set up to try to improve technical capacity across all of Dime's portfolio, but also to share our knowledge and practices and learning with the broader development community. And so what we try to do is to take advantage of the scope and scale of Dime research, which I just showed you, to develop technical solutions. So to understand, what are the challenges that teams are facing? What are the types of workflows that all teams undergo? What can we standardize and systematize in order to improve research quality across our portfolio? And then of those, what can we share with the global development research community as public goods? And so the way that we work is through an iterative process whereby we help to identify inefficiencies by supporting all of the projects within Dime, conceive of improved workflows, develop new tools and processes, and institutionalize those practices through training and support. And so what you'll see in this handbook is that we've consolidated all of the tools and learning that we've done over the last few years and put it into a narrative workflow for data handling during development research. So we do have a number of public goods that I wanted to share beyond this course. So of course, the first you'll see here is the Development Research and Practice course, which you're all already enrolled and participating in. We also have the Dime wiki, which I'm sure you've heard of through if you've started to interact with any of the course materials. A lot of the readings for the course will come from there. But that's broadly meant to be a one-stop shop for impact evaluation resources, and where we publish all of our protocols and processes and implementation details, trying to make everything transparent and publicly available. We also have another large a virtual course, which you may find of interest, which is called Managed Successful Impact Evaluation Surveys. That's focused on primary data collection and offered annually, but all of the materials are available publicly, so you can go through those at your own time at any point. And we have an annual conference on measuring development, it usually held in February or March. This year's focus was on innovative data and measurement for global health. Again, all of these things are linked here, and we'll share the slides with all of the participants at the end of the session. So you will have all of these links that we're mentioning. IE Toolkit and IE Field Kit are data packages that our team has developed to assist with primary data collection, management, and analysis, again, to try and automate some of the practices and protocols that we recommend. And we also have visual libraries for Stata and R, which are new tools that we've produced for nice looking and reproducible graphs. So with that as a brief introduction to the team, let me talk about this particular course. So this course accompanies the release of the Development Research and Practice Handbook, which has just been published by the World Bank. And the objective of the handbook is to train users of development data how to handle data effectively, efficiently, and ethically. And it compiles all of the lessons, tools, and processes developed at Dime into a single narrative of best practices for data work. So again, as I was saying, our objective within Dime Analytics is to gather lessons from across our diverse portfolio, develop tools and resources, and share those more broadly. And this handbook is our most systematic way of doing so thus far. We offer a case study throughout the handbook of an actual Dime impact evaluation in Rio de Janeiro. And that provides concrete examples of how to apply the protocols and processes that we're talking about, or how those were applied in real life. And you can download the book for free on the World Bank's Open Knowledge Repository, or of course you can purchase a hard copy. So the course is meant as an accompaniment to the handbook to introduce you to all of the content that is included therein. So it goes through the whole workflow that we recommend projects that are using original data to follow. So the first chapter covers principles for how to conduct reproducible, transparent, and credible research. So kind of setting you up for what are the principles that underlie all of the practices that we'll go through in the following chapters. What are the principles we think are most important as you conceive of development research today? The second chapter sets the stage for effective and efficient collaboration, thinking about all of the logistics. How do you set yourself and your team up for collaboration? What are the actual sort of tools and implementation resources that you'll need in order to effectively implement all of the practices that we'll talk about in subsequent chapters. In chapter 3, we discuss how to establish a measurement framework, which is thinking about how do you take a research design and translate it into the data needs for a particular project. And then chapter 4 focuses on how to acquire that data that you'll need in order to conduct your research. So whether that's data that you're getting from partner organizations, data you're getting, say, from big data sources, or primary data that you're collecting on specifically for this research project. It covers all of those cases. Chapter 5 goes into cleaning and processing research data. So once you have the data, what you need to do in order to make it ready for research, what you need to do in order to ensure that it's in a clean format, it's understandable, it's well documented. Then chapter 6 covers how to construct and analyze research data. So once you have data that's clean and well documented and well understood by all the team members, how do you actually proceed with the analysis, and what are the best practices on that front? And the last chapter covers how to publish reproducible research outputs. So once you've conducted all of your analysis, what's needed for the final publication stage, and how can you do that in a very reproducible fashion? And that focuses both on the actual sort of output in terms of a paper or a policy brief, but also on the data itself and the code as important research outputs in their own right. And then there are 3 appendices to the book. The Dime Analytics Coding Guide, which goes into some of the details of good coding. Our resource directory, which covers in more detail some of those public goods that I highlighted on a previous slide and gives you the links to how to access all of them. And finally, an appendix on research design for impact evaluation. And so that's thinking about lots of different impact evaluation designs. How do we conceive of those designs in terms of data needs and structure for a project? So as I mentioned, the handbook is accompanied by the DIME wiki, which is a one-stop shop for impact evaluation research solutions. And you'll see links throughout the handbook guiding you to the wiki for more details, and specifically implementation resources and additional links and tools that you might find useful from external partners. The wiki has been alive for about 3 years now, and we do have we're excited to have a broad and global usership global community of users. As you can see on the map here, we have viewers from across basically all of the countries in the world, and a lot of use from a diverse set of cities: Nairobi, London, New York, Lagos, Chicago, Chennai, Accra, Kampala, Bangalore, Dar es Salaam, and Addis Ababa are in our top 10 cities. So again, exciting to see lots of engagement with this resource from throughout. And you're welcome to, so this is a resource that's maintained by DIME, but we encourage contribution from the whole development community. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link here to sign up and become a registered user. You see we have 357 contributors to the wiki so far, and we're excited for that to increase. And once you register, you can make edits and contributions directly. We'll review those and keep them on and add them to the wiki as appropriate. Now, getting into some of the details of this course and how it will actually work and what you'll be doing over the next 8 weeks with us. So it's a fully self-paced course. It's structured to be one module per chapter, and we'll roughly cover one module or one chapter per week. That's why we have this 8-week schedule. But you're welcome to complete those on your own time. We realize that, of course, it's summer and lots of people have other plans and obviously other professional responsibilities. So there are no specific timelines. It's just that the materials will be posted and the live lectures will be scheduled on a weekly basis. So each module includes a 5-minute overview video that provides the kind of high-level introduction to the chapter. What are the key themes and the key takeaways that we want to make sure that you have? A reading list, which includes both required readings, which will be needed in order to successfully complete the quizzes and the course requirements, as well as recommended readings that are there if you'd like some more information or you'd like to dig in further into that particular topic. Then there's also a set of application questions for each module, which go through, which are a set of questions about how would you apply what you're learning in this chapter to your own research project. So you can start thinking about what does this mean? What does this mean in practice? And particularly if you're working on a study that's similar to those that we're talking about in this book, it will help you think about how can you apply the lessons learned and the tools that we're recommending to your own projects. Then we'll have a live lecture every Thursday with an opportunity for an open Q&A session. And that Q&A will be an opportunity to ask questions about the content in the chapter, but also to ask any questions that might have come up as you went through the applications or as you go through the reading list. Finally, there's a self-grading quiz to take at the end of the module once you've covered all of the other materials. And again, there's no specific deadline for those quizzes. You have to have completed all of them by the end of the course, so by September 1st. We recommend that you complete them on a weekly basis if you can, because it will become a lot to do everything at the end, but that's entirely up to you. And you can find all of the links to these materials on the course overview doc. I have the link on this slide, and it's also gone out in a number of emails that we've sent out and has been pinned on the Slack channel. So that's the place, that's your sort of one stop for all of the course links. And of course, and all of the materials are published on our OSF homepage. So they're all publicly available. So just to give you the example of how this module structure looks in practice, I wanted to go through week 1, which is the week that we're in now. The focus for the week is the same as chapter 1, how to conduct reproducible, transparent, and credible research. So you'll see that the materials for the session include the overview video, the reading list, and application questions, which are all linked in this slide. Then we have a live lecture and Q&A session on this Thursday coming up. And for those of you, of course, that can't make those live sessions for whatever reason, if it's inconvenient for your time zone or you have some other obligation, we'll be posting the recordings for those sessions and the slides after each live session takes place. And then once you've gone through all of those materials, you'll take the chapter 1 quiz, which again is linked here. So that same structure will apply to all of the modules, and you'll find links just like these on the course overview doc for all of the modules. They're not all up there now, as some of the materials will go up only in the week that they go live, but that document will be continuously updated. We recommend with all of the course materials that you access them via the OSF site, as we will be making updates in real time as needed. If there's any issues that come up, any typos or mistakes that people point out, that we correct. So again, those are all live documents. Particularly the course overview is going to be updated over the duration of the course. So we'd recommend accessing them live and then downloading all of the course materials at the end of the course. Now, this week we also have a special launch event that we're excited about, and we hope that many of you will be able to join us for, which is our book launch panel on Wednesday. So lots of live events this week, unlike the remainder of the course. So this will be a panel moderated by Ariana Legovini, who's the head of DIME. And we have 4 distinguished panelists that we're really excited to hear from. Marshall Burke, who's an associate professor in the Department of Earth Systems Science and Deputy Director at the Center on Food Security and the Environment at Stanford University. Ruth Levine, who's the CEO of ID Insight. Edward Miguel, who's a professor and faculty director of the Center for Effective Global Action at the University of California, Berkeley. And Lars Vilhuber, who's the data editor at the American Economic Association and executive director of the Labor Dynamics Institute at Cornell University. So that event is on July 14th at 11 a.m. And we have the registration link here. And in that, we'll go over the actual content of the handbook in some more detail, talking about what the motivation is for producing this and what we cover in a little bit more detail than we are here, since this session is really focused on the logistics and how you're understanding how this course will work. So a few important links to keep in mind. Again, these should have all been shared with you already, but I wanted to highlight them here. So we do have a Slack workspace for the course, which many of you have already joined. We've seen lots of posts and interactions there, which is great. That's your best place to ask questions related to the course content or ask for technical support, and also to network with other participants. So you'll see there's a number of channels once you join. There's channels for each chapter, which is where you should ask any specific questions about that chapter's content. The general channel is for any general questions. Like this morning, lots of people had questions about how to connect to this webinar, which we were answering on general. You can also ask those on the tech support channel, and tech support is the right place if you're having any trouble accessing any of the materials, say problems with the quizzes or anything else. And then finally, there's a networking channel where we really encourage you to introduce yourselves, give other participants an idea of what your background is, where you're coming from, and anything you might like to know from other people as well. So we'd like that to be a very dynamic space. Then the OSF homepage, which I mentioned, is where all of the materials for the course will be published. And it's where you find that course overview document that has the links to all of the module materials, quizzes, and connection details in one place. So that's the easiest document from which to navigate all the rest of the course. There's also an FAQ document, which you can refer to if you have questions. That's a good first place to look. And finally, there's a grading tracker where you can check your quiz scores and completion using the 6-digit participant ID that we shared with you by email. So what are the course requirements? If you'd like to pass the course and receive a course certificate, there are a set of requirements. First, you have to submit the pretest by the end of the day today. That was shared with everyone by email and also over the Slack channel. But if you haven't seen the link to it, please keep an eye out or ask on Slack and we can share that again. But please do that by the end of the day today. It should be quite quick. There's no study or any preparation needed for that. It's just our way to have an understanding of, what is kind of the baseline level of knowledge of the participants in the course. Then you must pass 6 of the 7 quizzes by the 1st of September. And the quizzes are self-grading. So you'll see your score right away when you're taking the quiz, and you'll have 3 opportunities for each quiz. So the first time you go through, you put in your answers. Once you confirm those answers, you'll immediately see your score and whether or not you passed. And then you'll have the opportunity to take it again if you did not pass. And then again, you'll have that opportunity one more time after you've done that. So you'll see each time, you'll see which answers you got correct, which questions you got you correctly answered, which you incorrectly answered, and which you had the answers for which you had the answers partially correct. But those 3 opportunities are all meant to be done, in approximately the same time. So it's, one link to take that quiz, and you can keep cycling through. So we do ask you to wait to take the quiz until you're ready to really go through the materials and and answer the quiz. And once you do see your final grade, after however many opportunities you go through, you must swipe to the next screen and click submit in order to actually register your submission. So I'm going to make sure you see that last step. It's not always obvious, but it's really important because otherwise we won't actually get to see your grade and we won't register that you've taken that quiz, and so you won't meet that requirement. So make sure you do go through and click submit. And finally, you need to submit the post-test by the 3rd of September. And again, that one is a general assessment of the overall course materials, and we'll share the link with that closer to the date. So those are the 3 broad requirements, and you can track your progress on the course requirements with that tracker that's linked here. So you can see at any time how many you've already completed, how many you have left to do, and if for some reason something isn't showing up, if you say you've done the quiz for chapter 1, but it's not appearing in the tracker, then you can reach out on Slack in the technical support channel to ask us to assist with that. And now the specific team for this course, the instructors are myself, Benjamin Daniels, Luisa Andrade, and Christopher Bjarkafor, who are all online today, and you'll see there. And then we also have 2 course assistants, Avnish Singh and Nupur Savani, who you will see popping up and answering lots of your questions on Slack. I know many of you have already interacted with Avnish, at least by email, as he's been sending out some of the pre-course information, the participant IDs, with the links to the live events. If you need to contact us, the best way to do so is through the Drip Courses Slack workspace. You'll get the most prompt response there. And of course, other participants can also help you to answer your questions. Otherwise, you can reach out to us by email, which is dime_dripcourse@worldbank.org. And we'll also get back to you that way. Okay. Now, a final question before we open it up for Q&A for the audience. What are you most excited about learning in this course? Try to limit your answer to 1 word. You'll see a word cloud coming up. And we would like to see what themes come up about what you're excited to learn. So please do go to that Poll Everywhere link that you see there. And we should see, yes, here, start to get responses in. We'll leave this up for a minute or 2. And this is the last slide that I have. So at this point, the remainder of the session, we have about 25 minutes, is going to be open for Q&A. So please post any questions that you have in the Q&A box. For those of you who are on the live stream, you can post those questions on Slack, and we'll be monitoring that space as well. You can post them in the general channel, preferably. And we'll take a look at those as in just a minute once we get our work cloud in. So we see lots of interest in data analysis, evaluation, research, methodology. Efficiency, research ethics. So all topics we'll cover. Visualization, we definitely have some good content on data visualization. Management of research studies is, again, something we'll talk about quite a lot. Protocols, you'll learn about in the book, and lots more detail on the Dime Wiki. Research design, that's going to be covered in week 3. Lots of analysis in week 6. Lots of information on surveys in week 4. Efficiency is something we'll talk about a lot. What are the right tools? How do we collaborate across large teams and across lots of different time zones and geographic space effectively and efficiently? We'll talk about that particularly in week 2. Reproducibility, we'll start talking about that in week 1, and you'll hear that repeated throughout all of the chapters. What are the tools and protocols for reproducible research? That's something we will focus on a lot, and we think is really important. Okay, give just 10 or so more seconds for any final inputs here. You see data cleaning, we'll have a whole week on that in week 5. And publishing, that's going to be in week 7. Great. Okay. I think this aligns pretty well with what we're planning to cover. So that's wonderful, and I hope you all find the information and tools that you're looking for as we go through the actual content of this course. So with that, I'm going to close this poll and just say thank you very much to everyone again for joining and for your interest in the course. We're delighted to have all of you here. And now we'll go into the live Q&A session. And I'm going to let Louisa, Ben, Christopher, any of you who'd like to jump in, please do if you've already been monitoring the Q&A, and I'll start taking a look as well.
I can jump in quickly. Hi, I'm Christopher. Most of the questions I think we answered already in the Q&A, and the first point I want to make is if you ask any question either on Slack or in the Q&A function on any of these sessions, just see if your questions have already been asked before, because we have repeated answer to many questions, and this is a big course. We have allowed a lot of people to join, but in return we would like you to ask to check if your question have already been answered, because otherwise we will spend too much time repeating the same questions instead of having a really nice and interesting discussion with all of you.
And so maybe now you can just go through, maybe 2 or 3 of what are the most common questions. So if anybody didn't see, what are the ones you've been answering a lot, and just share the answers with everybody here. I noticed people are raising their hands. We actually aren't going to use that feature, so please do just type your question directly into the Q&A box so that we can answer it that way.
So many of the questions is about links, and I think that the course, the main link to the course material will then have link to all of the other. So I think that I can post that in the chat. Just to make sure I copy the right link here. The course overview document will have links to everything else. If you remember the link that I'm posting, this is speak and type at the same time. So if you remember the link that I just now posted in the chat, this will be the starting point to almost everything else you have in the link, everything else you need in the course. So I think that's the most. Save this one, bookmark this link, because you will have a lot of use of that throughout this course. And also in the Slack space you can ask this, but again, always see and check in the Slack space if someone has asked you questions. I think it was a lot of those type of questions, Maria, that we've been answering, where the links are there. So I don't think we have to repeat more of that unless anyone else sees a question that they answered that I didn't see that they would like to answer.
Okay. No, that's perfect. Okay, a few questions here we can go through. So will you cover sampling design? Yes, that's covered as part of chapter 3. And on the measurement framework, that chapter is all about how do you think about translating your research design into data needs. So that's both in terms of like what kind of data will you need to collect, but also what the sampling requirements are. And so that will be in week 3 of this course and chapter 3 of the handbook. I'm curious to know what motivated this course. That's a great question, and we'll talk a little bit more about it on Wednesday during the webinar as well. So hopefully many of you will join for that discussion, which will be kind of a broader conversation about development research and what are the constraints to adopting some of these reproducible and transparent workflows. So that will cover that in much more detail. But as I think quick first answer is that we saw within DIME, again, we have quite a large portfolio of projects, and we saw lots of teams struggling with the same issues and challenges and really trying to, having to reinvent the wheel as to how to solve those. And so we've tried to develop tools and resources that will help all teams, and that they can just adopt off-the-shelf solutions rather than trying to come up with their own strategies and spending time and resources on doing that. And that's both helpful in terms of being more efficient, but also in standardizing quality of research across our portfolio and helping other researchers who may not have access to, to that same level of experience and scope and scale to develop best protocol, to adopt best practice protocols and tools. Next question I see here is about how much time is given to the quizzes. There is no particular time constraint, so you're welcome to answer those on your own time. Again, as I said, once you open the link, we do ask that you complete the quiz, and go through all of that. So, within that same day, roughly, you're not going to be able to, go to the same quiz multiple times. But you will have opportunities to do the quiz over during that same session. So if that's not clear, please do feel free to ask. And I think it'll be much clearer once you've gone through the chapter 1 quiz. The pretest looks a bit different because we obviously there's not opportunities to retake that since you're not getting that self-grading feature. You will get feedback as to your performance on both the pretest and the post-test at the end of the course. So if you're curious about that, you will have feedback in September as to the correct answers on those. Another question here about, will data visualization be part of the course? Definitely, that will cover in chapter 6. We have a section on that in the chapter on data processing and analysis. And I'd also really encourage you to check out the visual libraries that we have. Those are good resources for how to do data visualization either in Stata or in R, whichever language you're more comfortable in. You'll see lots of examples of visualizations in those libraries, and then as well the code that underlies those. So you're able to just take that code and use it for your own project. And contributions to those libraries are welcome as well. So if you have a request for a particular type of visualization that you don't see, or if you have some code that you think is it would be useful to share with others, then please do feel free to make those suggestions and contributions via our GitHub for those. How will you measure the impact of this course? Good question. That's something that at Dime we obviously care a lot about. So the main metric that we'll be using is the pre and post tests to look at changes in and kind of general knowledge in the topics covered in the course, but we'll also be, just tracking what does participation actually look like throughout the course. This is our first time running this course, and so we expect to learn a lot over the course about what are the resources that are most useful, and what are people actually participating in, using, downloading, and all of that. So we'll kind of be gathering monitoring data as we go along, but we'll have a kind of pre and post analysis as well. Also, I would say, at the end, we will have a course evaluation that we'll ask everyone to fill out for you, so you can give us feedback about what's most useful from the course and help us to develop this. We'll probably run it again in the future, since we did see a huge amount of demand for the course. So we'd expect to do it again, and we'd love to have your feedback about what you found useful and what you'd like to see done differently in the future. Sample code during data analysis. I think that question is asking about examples of code for data analysis, and you'll see that we do provide example code throughout the book, particularly through the case study. And so you can access those code snippets that we have in the published book through our GitHub repository. And you can also see all of the code that was used for the case study through that project's own GitHub repository. Who is the target audience for this course? It's really any user of development data. We think that people can engage with this course from a lot of different backgrounds and perspectives. We, if you are actually, say a research assistant, so I'm working directly with with data processing, data handling. If you're a researcher and you're interested in learning more about best practices that you can implement in your team for data handling, or if you're a project manager, say at the World Bank or at another multilateral bank, and you want to know what are the most important things as a project manager to know to make sure that you get good quality research outputs and that they are reliable and ideally, transparent and reproducible. A question as to whether we're covering mixed methods, specifically for qualitative data analysis. This course does not. We focus on quantitative data, which is just what we use most often at Dime. So it's what we've developed protocols and experience with. Certainly welcome to ask for advice and questions from other participants. We may have people in the audience who have a lot of experience with qualitative data analysis, so that's something you could certainly reach out if you're interested in across the student body, but not something that the handbook covers or that we'll cover directly in the course. Are we going to use any software for data analysis over this course? There are no software-based exercises. We do provide examples of Stata code throughout the handbook so that you can see how to implement things in practice, but there's no use of software required for the course or to understand the materials or to answer the quizzes. So you're welcome to test out that code if you're comfortable using Stata. In the future, we'll probably be released in another version of the book in a year or two. We'd like to release the whole package with our code as well, but that's something that will be only in a future edition. So Stata code is there, but not required in any way. Do you recommend reading the chapters ahead or waiting until the live session? That's a great question. So we would recommend reading the chapters at the beginning of the week if you're able to. So we kind of see the flow of the course being that, early in the week, you'd watch the motivation video, understand the broad objectives of the chapter, then read the chapter, go through the required readings, participate in the live session on Thursday, which will be a lecture that will go through, again, kind of what do we think is the most important in that chapter? What do we want to make sure that you understand out of the chapter content? And then will be opportunity for Q&A. And so that's why we recommend that you read them ahead of time, so that if you have questions about the content or there's areas that you thought were unclear or you'd like to know more, that's the best opportunity to ask those questions is during that live Q&A session. If you end up reading the chapters later, have questions, you can post those up in Slack in the channel that's dedicated to that particular chapter, and we'll try to get to those as well. But the most sort of comprehensive answers will probably come during the live session. Will we cover power calculations? We do have some information on that in week 3, where we go through sampling design and how to think about statistical power. And then we have lots more resources that we point to on the Dime wiki that go through in more detail. Are the research tools applicable or effective across disciplines, or particularly in development research? No, we would think about a lot of what we're saying here as being applicable to multiple disciplines. Really, any discipline that's doing kind of empirical research. So research with data, and particularly with original data sets. So that's certainly very applicable in political science and other kind of social science disciplines, as well as economics, and all fields of economics as well, not just development. So we'd say, and then particular subsets of the tools that we're talking about are even more broadly applicable. So some of the principles that we talk about when it comes to data cleaning are going to be important to understand and use no matter what kind of data you're working with. Okay. Let's see. What are you expecting from participants at the end of the summer? We expect that you have read through the whole handbook, and that you've gone through the other required readings for the course, and that you've answered all of the quizzes, and that you've had the opportunity to ask us any questions that you have as you go through and engage with that content. So we think really the more you're able to engage with the with the course materials during the course, the more you'll get out of it, right? Because the team of the 4 authors will all be available throughout the session to interact with you and answer your questions, and go through in detail, kind of like a big reading group, right? And so we do encourage you to take this opportunity to really participate actively. Okay. A question about how long will the lecture last for today. This lecture just goes for another 8 minutes, so we're almost done today. All of the regular course lectures will take place at 10 a.m. Eastern time, so this same time, but on Thursdays. So all of the following weeks. This week is unusual in that we have this intro session. Then Wednesday, we have the special book launch panel that takes place at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then Thursday, we have the live session for chapter 1 at 10 a.m. Eastern time. But so that's a lot of live events this week. Other weeks, it'll only be that Thursday session at 10 a.m., which will be the lecture for the chapter itself. Okay. Let's see. How helpful is this course considering current demand for data analysts? I'm going to guess that question is, will this course help you gain skills that will be useful in a professional setting? And I would say certainly yes. These are skills that we teach to all of the research assistants and field coordinators that we have within DIME who help us to implement all of the research that we're doing. And these are tools that also the economists and staff within DIME are using as part of their projects. So these are definitely useful skills to gain that you'll find, you can certainly put into practice in professional settings if you're working on a data-based research project. Okay. Is there any specific assumed knowledge or something to review or refresh before jumping into the course? No. So we think people will come into this course with lots of different backgrounds, and that's just fine. You'll find that at the beginning of each chapter, there's a summary box that we tried to target what are the key takeaways for project managers and what are the key takeaways for research assistants, as those being kind of the very different profiles that we see reading this book. But you're welcome to kind of, I think everyone will find different sections of the book most useful, and that's completely fine. There may be some sections that aren't relevant for what you're doing. For example, there's a large section on surveys, and if you're working on a research project that's fully using, big data or other sources of administrative data and no primary data, then you won't necessarily find that section as useful, and that's fine. But there is no background knowledge assumed. And I know people had questions about the pretest, saying, should I study for it? No, it's totally fine. Even if you get every single question in the pretest wrong, that's not a problem. We just want to know for our own purposes, what are people's background level of information coming in, and that will help us to understand the background of the audience. And we hope that over the course of these next 8 weeks that you will obviously learn a lot of that content, and that you would feel by the end of the course more prepared to answer the types of questions that you saw on that pretest. Let's see. How useful is this course for improving the understanding of analysis of secondary data? I'd say it's certainly useful. The analysis chapter that we have is fully agnostic to the type of data that you're using. So it's going to be applicable whether you're using secondary data or primary data. That's also broadly true of the data cleaning and processing chapter. There's obviously some specifics that apply to primary data that don't apply to secondary data, but mostly we've tried to write this as a guide that is useful regardless of the type of data that you are working with. And now, let me see.
A question here about courses that teach R and Python specifically. So as Maria mentioned, during this particular course, we will not have any applied statistical software assignments or content, but, and I think Chris is also looking for that link. You can find us on OSF. You can see the page for DIME Analytics. In there, you can find courses on R and Python. And there are also some applied data materials in there.
Yeah, perfect. Right, so all those courses that we do, the materials are all publicly available. You'll see in the Managed Successful Impact Evaluation Surveys course, we have applied exercises and data that relate to primary data collection as well. So, so those are all there, and we can share those links, but you can also find them directly. Okay, a question about, can we start the online course now or wait for the live lecture? So I'm going to answer this a little bit, but I want to make sure everyone's really clear. This is totally self-paced, so you're welcome to go through all of the materials whenever is convenient to you. The workflow we recommend is that you read the chapter before the live sessions on Thursday. That's why we schedule the live sessions for the later half of the week, so that you have the opportunity to ask any questions about the material during that session. And we recommend that you watch the overview or motivation video before you start reading the chapter, as that will help guide you as to what are the key themes that we'll be covering in that chapter. And you can think about, based on your own background and experience, what's going to be most relevant to you. Okay, let me see what else is not answered yet here. We have just a couple more minutes. That's done. Shall we have an opportunity to go through the use of instrumental variables in research? We'll cover that a little bit, but you can certainly learn about it in the Appendix C of the handbook, where we go through different research designs and what those imply for data needs. So we would, I think the best place to look for that would be in Appendix C. We won't cover the appendices directly during the course, but we would recommend that you read through them. And again, if you have any questions on those, please do ask us in Slack, and we'll be happy to answer those. Again, I see people raising their hands. Please do put your question in the chat, as we are not able to enable live questions. How does one get the pretest score after taking the quiz? You won't see your score on the pretest, but you will see that at the end of the course. We'll share both your pretest and the post-test scores and give you feedback on your own personal improvement based on those instruments. So the requirement is not anything about the scores on either of those tests. It's just that you complete them. Right. So again, it doesn't matter what you score on either the pretest or the post-test. Although obviously, we would like you to take them seriously because it will help us to gauge what you're learning, and it also give you feedback because you'll be able to see in what areas have you learned over the course of this 8 weeks. Okay, and one last question about certificates. Yes, if you pass all of the course requirements, so that means you complete the pretest, you complete the post-test, and you pass 6 of the 7 quizzes that relate to the chapters, you will receive a course certificate. We'll be sending those out by email within a week after the course completes. So you would receive those by September 10th. And again, you can check your own progress against the requirements using that tracker that we've set up and your participant ID. So do keep your IDs confidential, because that's how you can look at the results in that spreadsheet. If you have any issues with your name, and particularly if you want a different name on the certificate, that's something that often comes up, please do send us an email or reach out on Slack to Avnish, who will be the one who's coordinating that. And if you haven't gotten your participant ID, again, reach out on the tech support channel on Slack, and we can make sure that you get that. Some of the emails, it seems like, may have gotten lost to spam filters, and so we can get those forwarded. Okay, we're just about out of time. I'm gonna say that everyone is free to sign off. We can keep answering questions as they come up to make sure that we do get through all of that. But please, at this point, you can consider the session finished. Thank you all very much for joining. We look forward to interacting with you over the next 2 months very much, and we hope that you enjoy the course and find that you get a lot out of it. So I hope to see many or all of you on Wednesday for the launch event, and then on Thursday for the Chapter 1 lecture and live Q&A. In the meantime, please do reach out on Slack with any questions that come up, or send us an email, and we can make sure that you have all that you need to get started. And like I said, we'll stay online. We'll keep answering the questions that do come up in the Q&A to make sure that those all do get handled, but please feel free to sign off at this point unless you have further questions. Has this course considered diversity? For example, inclusion of people with a disability, e.g. visually impaired persons. So that's not something that we've made specific accommodations for. But if anybody is having challenges on that front, then please do reach out to us, and we can think about how best we might be able to accommodate. And it's, obviously always a challenge with virtual courses, but we're happy to talk about any specific situations and make any accommodations that we can to ensure that you can engage with all the material. Is it continuous that others can continue to join? No, so we did have a registration period, and that since we've had such overwhelming interest in the course, we have closed registration at this point. If there's people that are super interested in joining the course over the next couple of days, they can reach out by email, and we may be able to add them. But overall, we would encourage anyone else to join in a future session, and we'll probably do this on an annual basis. But also, we'll make all of the materials live, so people are welcome to engage with any of the course materials, and of course, encouraged to download and use the handbook, whether or not they're taking the course itself. Should we retake the tests before submitting the survey CTO form? Yes. So if you're talking about the quizzes, so for example, the chapter 1 quiz, once you've gone through and answered all of the questions once and confirmed those answers, you'll see immediate feedback as to your score and an opportunity to either submit your scores at that point or to take the quiz again. And you'll have that opportunity one more time. So a total of 3 possible opportunities to answer the quiz questions. And then at the end of that 3rd opportunity, you need to submit the results of the quiz. Where is the link to Slack? I think Avnish can put that up in the chat here. It's gone out by email as well. There's a join link in a number of emails that we've put up, but we'll add it here. The link for the quiz each week, yes, it's going to be on the course overview document. So that's the one that we've linked here already. That's hosted on OSF. So that same OSF homepage for the course has all of the materials, but that course overview doc is the best place to look for all links. It's organized by module. So you're able to find all the materials for each module in that course. Okay. The introductory slides will be uploaded. Yes, we were just going to go through the session, and then we'll upload both the recordings and the slide decks themselves. So you can go through those at your own time. Yes, and there's no problem if you're not able to join the sessions live. As we said, we'll always upload the recordings just after the session. Sometimes it'll take 24 or so hours to have access to those recordings, but they'll always go up, and the slides themselves will as well. So you have access to all the links that we did include in those. Okay. Where and how can someone get the materials? So again, all of the materials are up on OSF. Best place to look is that course overview document. Should I pass the pretest with a score of more than 80%? No, there is no pass or fail on the pretest. It's just a matter of completing it. And in fact, you won't see a score on the pretest itself. It's just that you complete it and submit it is all that's required for the course certificate. Now, I see a question specifically about someone's an issue with the course tracker. So please reach out to Avnish on the technical support channel in Slack with those questions, and so that he can follow up with you directly. Or you can reach out by email. Either way, that's fine. But we can resolve those on a one-to-one basis. Okay. I don't see any other questions up here now, but we will stay on for another minute or two if there is anything else.
There's a question about any specific days and times where we'll be meeting every week. So we will have introductory videos every week. At the beginning of the week, and we'll also meet for a lecture and Q&A on Thursdays at 10 a.m. However, all of these will also be made available on OSF, so you will always be able to follow the material if you are not able to join the sessions.
And just a note regarding the tracker with the quizzes, the most common issue that comes up there is that people don't swipe all the way through and get to the last screen where you have to click submit. So please do make sure when you're taking any of our quizzes, whether it's the pre-test or the chapter quizzes, that you swipe all the way through to the last screen and hit submit. That's the only way that we'll be able to register your scores and that they'll show up in the tracker and that you'll be eligible for the certificate. The recorded videos will go up online on our OSF site, and those will be linked to in the course overview doc. A question again about having lots of links. There are lots of links, but the only one that you need to remember and keep track of is the link for the course overview document, because that has everything else. So that's the one link that you need. And it's here. Avnish has put it up in the chat, so you can see it there. And I'll just copy it here. But that's the only one that that you will need. Is the chapter quiz tagged to the application questions? No, the application questions are just for your own use to help you think about how to apply what you're learning to your own project. And we'd encourage you to think through those and ask us questions, as it really helps to make this more practical. But there's nothing in there that is going to be included on the quizzes, because those are really, going to be tailored to your own specific projects and experiences. So, so nothing is required there for the quizzes. Apart from the Slack workspace, are participants going to be organized into smaller working groups to promote focused discussion? No, but Slack is where we expect lots of discussion and interaction to happen. And particularly those channels, like the chapter 1 channel, is where you can ask questions. For example, say you have a project and you're thinking about, well, how would I make my project more reproducible? That's where you can put that question up, and we can try and answer from our side, but also we'd really encourage other students and participants in the course to engage and answer and think about how to help out others as well. So we do think about this as being an opportunity both to learn from us, but also to interact with your fellow participants. A question about where are the chapter quizzes? Those are all linked through the course overview document. So for each chapter, you'll see the links to all of the materials required for that chapter. So the reading list, the application questions, the overview video, the live connection details, and the quiz. Okay, since we're already over time, I think we'll give just a couple more minutes and then we'll close this session at 11:15, so in 4 minutes. Can participants see the results of the pretest? You'll be able to see those at the end of the course. So in September, you'll be able to see your results on that. Can a test be taken more than once? Yes, as we said, there's 3 opportunities to answer the questions on each quiz. Any issues with participant IDs, I would recommend that you either reach out on the tech support channel in Slack, or you can send an email to dime_dripcourse@worldbank.org, and we can help you resolve that. Yeah, all of the webinars will be recorded and they'll be posted up on OSF, and the links to those will be included in the course overview document. So again, really the only link you need to remember is the link to the course overview document, and that's where you'll find all of the links to all of the other materials. Another question about the results of pre-tests. You will not see the results of those until the end of the course. A specific issue with the weak folders, I'm guessing that's on OSF. I would recommend reaching out on Slack with some more details and maybe a screenshot of the error that you're facing so that we can help you try and resolve that. So there's only one so this is a question about what happens if I miss a deadline. There's only one deadline, which is the deadline at the end of the course of September 1st. So there's no weekly deadlines for the materials. We would encourage you to submit things as you go along, right? So to finish the quizzes and all of the readings on a weekly basis, because we think that will help you to organize yourselves and to be able to manage all the workload of the course. But that it's entirely up to you. It is self-paced. However, if you miss that September 1st deadline, you won't have an opportunity to get a course certificate. So that deadline is a hard deadline, but you have about 8 weeks to complete it, right? So just keep in mind, you need to have everything done by September 1st and plan ahead accordingly so that you're able to, if you know that you might have some internet challenges, then plan on giving yourself, say a week ahead of time to try and get everything done, so that if you do face challenges, you still have some days to finish. Okay, so it's now 11:15. I think we've been able to answer most of the questions that come up. Anything else that does come up, please ask on Slack, and we'll keep engaging with all of you there. But at this point, we will close the webinar. So thank you very much to everyone for joining. And again, we're really looking forward to interacting with all of you over the next 8 weeks.